I like fighting games a lot, and one thing that surprises me about the genre is that there aren't really many big ones in the modern day. So, as a fan of the genre, I feel obligated to follow every new release as they come and pray with all my heart they won't flop. There's one release that is set to come out later this month that I want to talk about today. Invincible FighterZ, the fighting game based on the comic book and TV show by Robert Kirkman, Invincible. The game is fascinating to me for a multitude of reasons. First of which is because I like Invincible and it's just cool to see it get a video game, but also it looks to be pretty different from all other fighting games currently on the market. I started to ask myself a question: can it compete in the highly competitive field of fighting games fans' attention? Let's talk about it. The immediate comparisons Invincible FighterZ tends to draw are with Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct. Part of that is because of the hyperviolence, which is, I'll talk about that later, but it's mostly because some of the developers of the game worked on Killer Instinct. It also looks to take cues from Marvel vs. Capcom or Dragon Ball FighterZ, since it is a combo-heavy 3v3 tag fighter with superheroes in it. The gameplay looks fun enough, and since there is such a demand for a new Killer Instinct game, I think it could be received well. I can't exactly comment on the gameplay since I completely missed that there's an open beta, but it looks fairly simple enough for a fighting game, and for most casual fans, the gameplay isn't really what draws them to a fighting game necessarily. There's roughly 15 characters in the base game, which is pretty good, and Invincible has a really good selection of characters from a vast universe with a lot of variety in their moveset. I especially liked Cecil being a playable character, since he's not one I would immediately think of, even if I guess he does have a fight in the series once in the show. From what I understand, Cecil isn't very important in the comics, so it does look like the comics won't really factor into this game's roster decisions at all. The roster kinda reminds me of old anime fighters back when they would only add characters who are relevant to the anime and not the manga at the time, which is a good thing. I think it's kinda charming. There's also a new character, Elemental, which I didn't realize was a new character at first. It feels so similar to already existing Invincible characters, I just assumed that I missed her in the show. Now, people have criticized the game for having a lot of Viltrumites or characters with Viltrumite-based power sets. Not only are Invincible, Omni-Man, Conquest, Lucan, Thula, and Anissa all in the base game, characters like the Immortal and Alan also have basically just the Viltrumite power sets. I can understand the criticism that there might not be enough variety, but... So have you ever heard of this franchise called Street Fighter? Ryu, Ken, Akuma, Dan, Sakura, and more all have basically the same moves, but they feel distinct from each other, and I don't think there's exactly very many people complaining about the lack of variety in Street Fighter characters, unless they're complaining about the amount of characters Street Fighter V launched with. I mostly agree that the base roster didn't need like Anissa, Lucan, Thula, and Conquest. They could have cut one or two of those characters, but I think they can feel distinct, and even if they don't, there's enough characters with interesting movesets aside from them that I don't mind the focus on Viltrumites. Plus, let's be honest, the Viltrumite War is the most interesting part of the show. They're gonna add a lot of them. While I'm on the subject of criticisms of the game, one thing that kinda irks me is the Mortal Kombat style hyperviolence. It's got that effect where huge amounts of blood that would be lethal in real life spill out of characters with every attack, and some characters' attacks just brutally kill each other. The Invincible show is, of course, exactly that violent, and it makes sense to be accurate, but does everyone have to brutally kill everyone? To me, it creates a Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat problem. He's supposed to be the good one, and it's really out of character for him to do fatalities. Why is Alan the alien brutally killing people? This honestly might be part of a bigger problem I have with a subset of Invincible fans who only seem to be drawn to the show because of its violence, and not any of the, like, I don't know, writing. I guess it's a problem that I can just laugh away, but it does feel odd to me. The game is currently receiving a really big marketing push, and Invincible is in a very good spot in the public conscious right now, because of the weekly release of the 4th season of the show. Invincible FighterZ will also launch with a story mode. Fighting game story modes usually have mixed quality, but putting one in the game shows they care about casual fans who will actually buy a game for a story mode. Invincible FighterZ is set to release just under 10 days after Season 4 ends, so it's great timing for a big Invincible fighting game. One of fighting games' main target demographics are people who will grind them over and over again, so that initial launch window is very crucial to getting people's attention. That does also mean that for competitive fans, the market of fighting games for them to pay attention to at one time is limited. As it turns out, there are a couple of fighting games released around the time of Invincible FighterZ that are almost equally as surprising that might have some overlap in their audiences. Avatar Legends and Marvel Tokon are both releasing within just a few months of Invincible FighterZ. Both are tag fighters, and since they're either based on animated shows or superheroes, there could potentially be overlap with Invincible FighterZ target demographics. The conversation around Invincible FighterZ has been dominated pretty heavily by comparisons to Marvel Tokon, and there's this idea within the fighting game community that their sales will inherently be competing with each other. I can't blame people for this concern because, to the most intense fighting game fans, there can only be a limited number of games you focus your attention on at a time. It's like live service games. If you're grinding Tekken, trying to get as good as you can, it doesn't leave much time to play Street Fighter. We also recently got Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact and Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, which showed a lot of promise towards the future of fighting games, but didn't leave a big impact on Arrival. At least one of them devolved into using AI slop. Will Marvel Tokons and Avatar Legends eat into Invincible FighterZ's sales or communities? I'm sure that might happen, but you have to remember, not everyone plays fighting games like they're a live service game. In fact, I'm willing to bet they don't make up over 50% of the demographic who buys fighting games. Anyone who pays close attention to the industry will tell you that most people who pick up fighting games are just looking for something cool or fun to pass the time, maybe get a little bit better at. That's why things like story modes, character variety, and rule of cool are big factors of consideration for fighting games. It's easy to call a game like Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact a flop because you looked at the Steam charts and it shows the game doesn't have very many active players. But sometimes, a game's success is determined by more than just the amount of people playing it at one given moment. Fighting game communities can keep 30-year-old games that aren't even on modern hardware alive. A game launching with some potential customers not interested because they're waiting for a Marvel game instead isn't gonna doom it forever. The title that I gave to this video, the very one you're watching, is actually shameless and stupid clickbait. I tricked you. There's no way for one guy online to tell if one product will turn out to be successful or not. But looking at it, I think it has a chance. All we can really hope for in Invincible FighterZ is that it ends up being a good game that might get more attention on smaller fighting games and carve out a niche within the genre. It sounds like an unsatisfying answer when I say it this way, but you can't always know what happens in the future, and if anything, that's what makes it fun. And this game being fun is really all that matters in the end. Invincible FighterZ has promise, and as of now, is on track to be pretty successful. I hope it is, and I think it definitely can coexist alongside whatever fighting games that might be releasing alongside it are. If they add 5 more Viltrumites, I'm not making a video about it again though. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. God, this game has an awful impression of a Seth Rogen laugh though.